Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Monday in the Riv and our first holiday show. So, welcome to our first holiday show in the 12 years we were on the air at the institution of lower learning that denies you your rights. We never could have a show on a holiday. So we are here with you in the morning. So we're not going to interfere with your cookouts this afternoon and this evening. And so welcome.
Well, we're already people are saying good morning to us. Jeff, well, good morning, Jeff. Thank you for watching. I'm hoping for some more viewers shortly. Um, how many people read the Weekend Flush out there? I hope you're subscribed. Um, I called Fall River desolate, so um, I'm sure that the mayor's office does not accept that, even though they can't say much until Tuesday. Um, and I blame the mayor for Fall River becoming a desolate community. And I think that the mayor is working towards making Fall River a desolate community. I know he's saying he's trying to bring higher rents in and the tea and everything else, but it's just not going to work for me. It's just not going to work for me. I don't see it happening. And with the amount of crime that we're seeing, and I'm surprised we don't have a crime report this morning. Um, with the holiday weekend, you'd think something happened. But with the amount of crime and the way it's been ticking upwards, you have to say there's something going on. And really, how many people are going to want to come to Fall River?
No, you're right. You're right, CJ. Listen, uh, it's the conditions here for the regular people are horrific. Um, we see we were told that it is alleged that they sent the police down to the rail trail and to the trail and to confiscate the homeless's tents and stuff. So I wonder if Joe Good's going to write an article about that. Didn't she call him the I don't know, the savior of the homeless, even though he had confiscated their tents once before? Listen, granted, I know they're not supposed to be there, but just remove them, get them out. At least let them keep their shelter. Slightly insensitive, I would say, if that's true. And it is alleged that happened. But listen, we're going to have a lot
Well,
more homeless.
according to what I read, they were charged with trespassing. They were charging them with trespassing on the Quequechan Rail Trail because they don't belong there between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. So they were either charged or were going to be charged with trespassing. Just a clarification.
Yeah, well, yeah, but that's not the relevant issue.
No, it's not.
That's not really the relevant issue. I don't care what they charge them with. We know you're not supposed to be there. And they have a duty to remove them. But you don't take their belongings and their shelter. And if you remove them and they didn't take it, well, they're going to move somewhere else. But this is the issue. This is not the problem. This is the symptom of the problem. High rents, drug addiction, all these things that are running rampant in Fall River to make it a desperate place that nobody wants to come to. Rated number one in crime for a couple of years in a row. We still have tons of crime. We still have severely underperforming school. We have debt piled upon debt. We have high taxes. We have high fees, and nothing to relieve the burden of the average person in Fall River. We see Mayor Mitchell over in New Bedford investing $27 million in affordable housing, and again, Paul the con man Coogan in his push card tries to say, he puts them in affordable housing. It's a drop in the bucket. Isn't it amazing how they talk about how our population is soaring toward 100,000, yet they think having fewer affordable housing units built than Somerset, that has 18,000 people, is adequately addressing this problem. Also, how are we addressing the addiction problem? Joe Good wrote a couple of really flowery articles about how he's a savior of anything, but I can tell you one thing: I don't see anything done. I don't see a plan for anything. And nobody cares about how we blow the money, including our city council, except for Michelle Dion, obviously. But, people, this is the great con. No, you don't talk about it, and it's not really happening. Well, again, I will reiterate what I said on a previous show. This is Fall River is targeting people who they want to help. It's Paul's friends. Yeah, overpopulated. Good one, Jeff. Again, as you know, I live off Eastern Avenue, so most of you should know. Most of you know where I live. I grew up in the Flint, and I live off Eastern Avenue now.
You're a Flint rat.
I grew up on Alden and Quequechan, which is right in the heart of the Flint. But I live off Eastern Avenue. So I come up Eastern Avenue virtually every day. Go up and down Eastern Avenue to BCC to walk the dog, down to Eastern Avenue to pick up the highway to go somewhere. And again, I made note yesterday to try to find one of those 40 means 40 and all those electronic speed signs for people speeding, to keep our streets safer and not have maniacs driving 80. I didn't see any south of Pleasant on Eastern Avenue. I saw signs on virtually every lawn on Northeastern Avenue. I saw 2 or 3 different electronic signs on Northeastern Avenue. I saw electronic signs on Meridian Street. And I will say, nothing south. So it's pretty obvious that as you move north on Eastern Avenue to Northeastern Avenue, and I never made it to Northeastern Avenue. I live on Eastern Avenue. So you begin to see a lot of Coogan signs, and it's a higher rent district. And these are the people that our mayor only cares about. He wants everybody else to leave town. And that's the problem. And the problem is, like you said, we are not moving. We are moving closer to Detroit, as I always say, than out of Newton. These people are delusionary if they think people are going to come to a city with the issues that we have, and unresolved issues, and no plan to fix those issues.
I agree. And I saw the 40 means 40 signs in the Northeastern Avenue on people's property. I want to welcome Mr. X. He's posting, they should go to the north end and disrupt Fall River's Martha's Vineyard. Street paving has been a disaster with patches, including digging through the final coat, waste of taxpayer dollars. And that's true. They do it all the time. They put the final coat on the roads, and then they dig through it and they put a patch on it. And then you wonder why we have potholes, because the city council lets them do it. And the excuse is, nobody told us they were doing it. I don't want to hear it. Okay? The city engineer has got to put together a list of streets that are being done and when they're being done. And the utility companies need to step up and say, okay, these are being done. This is when it's going to happen. Otherwise, when they dig through that final coat, the city should charge them for full repaving. The entire street, not just where they dug, but the entire street to be repaved again. Because it was repaved, it was no new repavement, and we're not going to take a patch. That's just not fair. It's just not fair. Thanks for watching, Mr. X. I appreciate it.
I really like that comment, Mr. X. I did the north end Martha's Vineyard of Fall River. I like that. That's a very, very good characterization of the area. And like Martha's Vineyard, they talk a good game, but they don't really care. They don't care about the regular people of Fall River. They only care about their elite friends and their friends. And that's a reality that's pretty easy to identify. I saw Pelosi on TV the other day talking about how the MAGA Republicans don't care about human dignity. Wow. I'll tell you, what a hypocrite. You think she really cares about human dignity? Do you see the condition of San Francisco, the city, one of the, if not the most beautiful city at one time in the United States? The Golden Gate Bridge with cable cars racing halfway to the stars, as Tony Bennett once said, because he left his heart in San Francisco. But the reality is that city is now a mess. Virtually anybody that could move out has moved out. The streets are littered with drug addicts and tents and feces and urine. Nancy, do you really care about human dignity to allow people to live like this while you're living in your palatial estate? And oh, by the way, her husband got knocked off for DUI again. I saw that, but they suppressed it very quickly. But this is the hypocrisy of these people. They pretend that they care. But as our friend, your friend and mine, CJ, the humble bum from New Bedford, who was a political operative for many years in the New Bedford political landscape, once said, "Words without deeds are worthless weeds."
I have a comment to make. Well, I don't have a comment to make. Mr. X does. And I think you're going to like this one, Chip. Paul Coogan ought to be embarrassed because even though they're homeless, they will stay in Fall River. Paul Coogan will leave Fall River once again. He's not even a full-time resident. Well, I'm glad somebody else brought it up. He's not even a full-time resident.
Well, that's that allegation's been bantered around for a long time. I know people who live in this neighborhood who say they virtually never see anybody around that house, and if it is, it's to cut the grass or might stay there. And I drive by there a lot because I use Oak Grove Avenue, and I never see a lot of action around that house. But there have been numerous allegations, and we've heard them. You've heard them. I've heard them. People say that they have a house in Somerset, and that's where his wife is living 99.9% of the time. So listen, just take a drive by that house. You think somebody that's making 120 grand a year plus his pension is going to live in a Bobby townhouse at this stage in his life? That's like a starter home for a young married couple. He got that only to have a residence here so he could run for office. We know he has no commitment to Fall River. The first thing he did when he retired from the school system is move to Somerset. Sold his property. We looked it up. We know the property he had in Fall River that he sold. And he bailed to Somerset. So, this is the whole thing. This is like a giant, pall of hypocrisy that they put out. They talk a good game, but they don't do it. And nobody cares about the money. See, that's the thing. and we got to segue into this because I think it's hugely important. The city of Brockton is going to have an audit and a forensic audit of the school system because there's 14 to 15 million dollars missing in their school budget.
15.4 million.
All right, there you go. We've confirmed the number because initially when that first came out, they said between 14 and 15. But even then, it's not a finite number because since it's missing, we don't know. We don't really know. That's why they're going to get in what? An outside auditor, like we did when we audited the healthcare system. But does anybody audit Fall River with all our missing money? 14 or 15 million. That's chump change. Chump change. I just so happen to have the numbers for FY 20, 21, 22, and 23 of surplus in the healthcare system. And I've read them before, so we'll just go right to the total. In those 4 fiscal years, the city has had a $17,565,755 surplus returned to them. And the city share of that money is $13,174,316. Now, that's nearly what the school budget in Brockton is missing. We also have opera money that may have been misappropriated. We also have serious questions about what's being appropriated for the Durfee debt override, which we will be covering in depth on an upcoming show. And Nelson will be here with some of his numbers to share with us. So we're talking about double, triple the amount of money that's missing in Brockton. But does anybody on our council except Michelle Dan ever ask the question? I sent a letter, an email to the city council with these numbers. These numbers that you can't see on, yeah, you can see them a little bit. There they are. Yeah, see them? There you go. There they are. And let's get up to the city share. See? There they are. And they're handwritten, but I'll show you last year's figure. I don't know if you can see it because the thing might be the print is too small, but you can see you can see the 4,577,000 for this fiscal year. That's actually the spreadsheet we got from the company that tracks the money. So these aren't made up numbers, okay? These are not made up numbers. They have a fiduciary obligation to look at this. They're all guilty of malfeasance by not doing their sworn duty to pay attention to what they're doing with our money. Nobody knows where this extra 13 million has been spent in the last 4 fiscal years. Nobody knows where the extra money that they padded for the debt override has been spent. Nobody knows. But our taxes keep going up, and we have millions and millions of dollars that are unaccounted for and how it was spent. But we don't have any politician with the courage to speak the words independent forensic audit. Listen. Hire Ernst & Young. That's who I hired. And it was incredible. Backdating checks from one fiscal year to another, which is illegal. Never doing an actual audit, even though Chapter 32B requires an annual audit of the healthcare system. And they admitted under oath they did a reconciliation, not a real audit. That's why they misappropriated the money, didn't know where it was. This city is an economic disaster. They're blowing our money every single day. They're squirreling it away. Why do you think we get all these excesses? Why do you think we get all this extra money? That's where they're hiding money. That's where they get the magic money from that a former chief of staff said. We get magic money. No, it's not magic money. It's the money when Mary Sahadi went in front of the council and said we needed $45 million for the health care premium, and it was only $40 million. And then when she was pressed by Michelle Dion and maybe a little bit by Sean Kadim, she admitted she only needed $39 million. So that's $6 million. They padded the bill. We didn't really need it, but it was in the budget. They hide money, and then they move it around, which is illegal, by the way. The city council, for not looking at this, I just saw a commercial for one of those investment companies. You know the one I can't think of the name now. Is it Schwab? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm misspeaking, but you might know, CJ, where they talk about we're fiduciaries.
Yeah, they don't make money off of
we don't make money off our because we are a fiduciary. But today they got a new commercial. You know what the guy said? He said, we're fiduciaries every day, not just certain days. Well, that's what our city council is supposed to be. They're supposed to be our fiduciary every day, and they don't do it. That's why nobody except Michelle Dion deserves to ever sit in a seat in that council again, because they are not doing their job. And I guarantee if they get in again, there will be complaints. There's going to be a complaint filed before this election anyway, because I'm sick and tired of them not doing their job. And you know what they're going to say? Like they always say to us, just shut up and go away. You got $1 million, take us to court, because let us screw you.
Yeah.
And we'll cover for our pals, the politicians, because they're the people who gave us the jobs up here in the state, and nobody gives a damn. And the only way we can change this, people, is get to the polls. Get to the polls, because this is a nut house. This city is a nut house. When New Bedford and Brockton can be better at running their cities than us, we got problems.
Well, Mr. X says here, a full forensic audit should happen here. It wouldn't shock me if there are numerous questionable opera misappropriation spending. Nobody knows except Coogan's nose.
Yep. Absolutely.
The people are speaking, and maybe if Paul's watching, Paul should take the hint that the people are fed up. Okay, he can blame us all he wants, but we're only speaking what the people are saying behind his back. And he needs to wake up and smell a cappuccino. Okay, he can go to Dunkin' Donuts and get his coffee all he wants with Tim McCoy and whatnot, and ignore me, and that's fine. But he needs to make sure that when he's in there, he's recognizing the people that are there, that are talking about issues, because he wasn't doing that.
Well, it was very appropriate to you say he would drink a cappuccino, because I'm sure that he'd drink a latte, double, goat milk, something or other, because, he's a wannabe elitist, and because he hangs around with all his rich friends. But, who are the victims of this? The homeless who have had no plan to help them with whatever issues are making them homeless, the people being displaced by their rents, people looking at losing their homes because they can't pay their tax bills and will never pay them in a few years when everything bites us in the ass. So the reality is that, listen, this city is in dire straits, and it's not only the mayor. You have to put the blame on the bobbleheads we have in the city council and on the school committee, because all they're good at is nodding their heads, giving money to their friends, and ignoring any fiduciary responsibility they have and any responsibility they have to the oath they swore when they were sworn into office to be our representatives and substitutes and be at all times answerable to us. They are only answerable to their friends and to Paulie.
The thing that got me was when Brockton recognized the fact that they had lost $15.4 million in the school department budget. That's for fiscal year 22-23, which was last year's budget. They say that it won't affect this year's budget at all. The first thing they did was, we want a forensic audit of that account. They didn't say we want it audited. They wanted a forensic audit. They wanted to know where that money went, who spent that money, who misappropriated that money, or whatever happened to that money, because they don't know. Okay? Fall River doesn't want a forensic audit because one of their friends might have to go to jail. And that's the problem. They don't want to get anyone in trouble. Hence why we have the John Perry situation, which we still haven't gotten a decision from the judge yet. I'm waiting to hear on that. But one of the things that really gets me, which I think is important to the people, is right now the school department, and I got this directly from a viewer, Michelle M. I don't want to give her name. Her son has been taken off the bus route. They live all the way up next to the Route 24 on-ramp on Robeson Street. All the way up in that area by the what is that, St. Vincent's Farm or whatever they used to call it, Highland Farm. And her kid goes to Henry Lord, I think. And they expect him to walk there. Okay? He's like, I don't know, an 8-year-old, 9-year-old kid, and they expect him to walk there. He used to have a bus all the time. You know what the excuse was that was given? The city's growing too much. We can't afford to give everybody bus rides. That's a problem.
Well, there'll be bus rides for everybody in Paulie's neighborhood. I can guarantee you that. And if that young student was the child of one of Paulie's pals, they would send a cab for him, or maybe a limo. That's the problem. That's the problem. The rich get rich, and the poorer try to camp out on a rail trail. That's the reality. So,
I have to love this comment from Mr. X. Jeffrey, young man, there will come a time when our city experiences the revolution, the one we've been calling for several years. So, Mr. X is right on the ball today. Yes, he is.
Well, it's always great to get input from the viewers. This is a new edition that we have, and it's nice to hear our regulars. But I mean, listen, like I said, the human toll that's being taken in this city. We have people who've had their house paid for 20 or 30 years that are now struggling just to pay their taxes. And when Diamond and Durfee stopped subsidizing the debt override with ARPA money, and the money they squirrel away, people don't realize that all this stuff is illegal. You can't say you need $45 million for a bill when it's only $39 million or $40 million. You can't do that. That is malfeasance on a public official. They're hiding money. It's like having an offshore account, but we don't need to go to Grand Cayman to create these accounts. We just do it in our own budget, and our clueless city council doesn't care, even when they're called on it. If it wasn't for Michelle Dion complaining and calling out Mary Sahadi, and then they had to call in the people who actually do the numbers, and Diane LaFlash had to stand up in front of the council, and of course she had an obligation to tell the truth. But it took courage to get there, because I know the city wasn't happy when she said no. Our estimate was 40 million, not 45. for that particular budget item. And then Mary Sahadi came up with this ridiculous thing like, well, I included this and I included that and you included all stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with that line item. That line item was for the city share of the healthcare premium. It didn't have to do with life insurance and stop loss insurance. Those are all separate items. And you may be able to bullshit the council, but even they're not that stupid. We made it clear what that appropriation is for. Diana Fash told you it's for the appropriation. Our recommendation is $40 million. But she wanted 45. They were going to hide. Then they took 39 and they still had money left over. Because they always put a little cushion in because you could have a bad year as far as that, even though we've got stop loss insurance. It's a complicated thing. But they always put a little cushion, but not $6 million. Not $6 million. There's squirreling money all over the place, and you're all going to be appalled when you see how much money Paul is moving around in a debt override for Durfee, with the promises made and what has been delivered.
Hence why he won't put on the tax bills the amount of money that the debt override is generating. How much money I'm paying for the debt override? The people have a right to know. But Paul refuses to do that because then he would have to expose himself, and he doesn't want to do that at all. He doesn't want to be exposed. I'm telling you, it just infuriates you. It just gets you sometimes. Well, I want to thank you all for watching. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Have a great Labor Day. Enjoy your barbecues, and we'll see you on Wednesday.
Enjoy.